What the hell is going on with Alex Pereira? We need to discuss what the UFC are going to do next with one of the biggest superstar in the sport right now. And I hesitated because the fanfare that this man has is unprecedented, quite honestly. And when you think of stars in the UFC, of course, the names like Conor and Jon Jones and Khabib, they're all relevant. But if we just have a look at more recently active fighters and what they're doing outside of the cage as well as in, Alex Pereira is that guy. He's been on some of the biggest cards, UFC 300 main event, and then of course he swapped in on Conor's card as well. So now this man is very much up there when we talk about pay-per-views and we talk about gates, we talk about followers. You have a look at what this man's doing on social media in regards to his YouTube, his Instagram, his TikTok. Incredibly active, very engaging content, and the fans absolutely love him. In regards to his branding and his marketing, he has nailed it. But with his fighting, what is next? Because he is on the cusp of being able to do something that no one has ever done before. We need to state that again. Never done before. 3 weight division champion. Now, of course, in kickboxing, he's already achieved 2-time weight class champion in middleweight and light heavyweight. He comes over into MMA, makes an absolute mockery of the sport, reaches the top in just a matter of what feels like days, and now he's got multiple defenses at light heavyweight, and he's also won the belt at middleweight. So what is next, in my opinion, should be the heavyweight belt. And I've been saying this for a very long time. And the reason I believe this is this doesn't come around very often. This is not typical. And I think the UFC have to pick this up and run with it. This is not some mug who's been fortunate to drop into a couple of conversations, grab a couple of belts, and they're not that big of a name. No, this man is massive at the moment. And I really think the UFC need to capitalize on this. Now, when they booked the fight of Alexander Rakic and Magomed Ankalaev, that was when the alarm bells started going, because everyone was seeming to think that Alex Pereira was going to fight Magomed Ankalaev. That was the fight to make at light heavyweight, done and dusted. But no, the UFC have different plans. So now when we think about it, there's really only 2 options left on the table, realistically. Now, listening to the rumours and the whispers in the MMA world, that comes down to 2 things. And I think logic would suggest that they're probably pretty accurate. On the first hand, we've got Dricus du Plessis and Israel Adesanya this weekend. Now, the reason that's relevant is because I think the UFC are going to watch how that one plays out. I think if Dricus du Plessis wins, nothing really changes too much there, and I think they roll on. But if Israel wins, I think they look to unify that belt, or not to unify, sorry, to bring Izzy up to 205, have that, what seems like 100 fights, try and create a massive pay-per-view in what is likely the last couple of fights for Izzy. And of course, Alex Pereira is getting towards the back end of his career as well. So I think that's the option 1. And I think to the UFC, they're seeing big pay-per-view signs. Now, me personally, I'm not too invested in seeing that fight again, to be honest. And I know that Israel has come out and said that he isn't too fussed in actually fighting Alex again, because why would he? And I seem to agree with him, because if you've gone out there after losing multiple times, by the way, and absolutely flatlined him on the biggest stage with a fantastic knockout and got an incredible celebration, how do you top that? You can't. You can't really top that. So not only from a motivation perspective is it going to be hard to get up for, in regards to the actual performance, it's going to be hard to beat. And I don't know if the incentive is great enough for Izzy to want to do that. But that doesn't matter if the UFC do. Let's be very clear about that. Now, on the flip side, we have Alex Pereira at heavyweight. Now, this is a conversation that we need to entertain because, like I said, we're in an unprecedented position. And the UFC love making history and they love making stars. So this makes all the sense in the world to me. Now, how I think this plays out is they wait for the November card with Stipe Miocic and Jon Jones. And I think the UFC are smart enough to know that whatever the outcome, there's going to be a double retirement. I think if Jon Jones wins, there's going to be a double retirement. And I think if he loses, there'll likely be a double retirement as well. Stipe Miocic has gone on record to say that he's already retiring. As ridiculous as that is, I'll cover that in a new video, but that's already on record. So Jon Jones is the variable here. And we've seen a lot of things online recently, him in the comment sections engaging with fans, basically saying that this is going to be the last fight of his career and then he's going to retire at 37. So I think the UFC are smart enough to know they need an insurance policy. Now, what does that look like? I think it looks like a fight between Tom Aspinall and Alex Pereira. I think that's one of the biggest fights that you can make at the moment in mixed martial arts. And stylistically, it's a very interesting one. And we won't dive into the breakdown of that too much, but I think it's a fun one. The narrative that Tom can take him down and submit him is a very fair one. Very, very fair one. But have we seen Tom clipped once or twice in his career enough to suggest that if someone like Poatan done it, it could be a game changer? 100%. We've got enough of a narrative to run. And we think about charismatic figures in the sport right now, there's not really many bigger than Alex Pereira and the baddest man on the planet, which I think many people would be able to admit is Tom Aspinall. He's had 8 fights in the heavyweight division right now. Jon Jones has had 1. That's not diminishing the rest of his career. That's not saying he's not one of the greatest of all times. That's just objectively speaking, one man has had 1 fight at heavyweight. One man has had 8 or 9, I should say. Won 8 of them, finished 8 of them, and left the first round once. So you can make your decision up for yourself. But I'm just painting that picture for you. So to recap, I think we've got a potential Israel move up to 205. And then I think we've got a potential undisputed heavyweight fight between Alex and Tom. Now, I have heard some rumblings that people think it could be on the same card and they'll run it as the co-main. I don't think so. Purely from a business perspective, I think the UFC would look to drag that out, bring another pay-per-view, and they would wait for a conclusive answer. I think if it was on the same night, they wouldn't get a very clear answer of what's going to happen in the main event because that could change things. So I think they'll wait for a conclusive result in November, Madison Square Garden, between Jon Jones and Stipe. And then I think they'll look to unify the belt with Alex Pereira, of which I am a massive proponent for. Because what happens if he loses? Oh, it was his debut at heavyweight. He goes straight back down at light heavyweight. No harm, no foul. Still one of the biggest stars in the sport. He gets knocked out or submitted by Tom Aspinall. That happens to absolutely everyone. But if he wins, I have a mentor in business and he always says to me, if you can cap the downside and have unlimited upside, it's a good business decision. So the downside would be he gets finished. Now, we've already seen that in his UFC career because we've seen him get finished by Israel. It would be at heavyweight, so there would already be a narrative to say it's not his natural weight class, he didn't bulk up enough, he didn't have enough time, all of that. But the upside is uncapped because we're talking about one of the biggest superstars already getting 3 belts around his waist. And just imagine the picture. One there, one there, one there, bosh. Incredible. But let me know in the comments what you think and how you think this one plays out. Drop a subscribe if you're new here. And if you haven't already, drop a comment of what you'd like to see next from me. I'm going to be doing a few of these talking head videos, a few breakdown videos and whatnot. So let me know what you enjoy the most. And as always, people, keep it casual.